The end of the world is coming. Well, not literally. But if you're like me and you've read a lot about history, you know that this has been said many times before. The year 2000 was going to be unstable because of the dot-com crash. 2012 was going to be the end of the world because the Mayans said so. And every few years we find ourselves thinking this must be the end of times. Why does 2025 feel different? We have a war that's been raging for more than a year. Interest rates are higher than they've been in 2 decades. There are rumors that the US dollar is becoming obsolete. Technology is changing at light speed. New AI tools appear daily, and people can't stop talking about the next big thing. It's easy to look around and believe that things are getting worse and out of control. But what if instead of focusing on all the things that are going wrong, or all the things we can't control, we took a step back and thought about the bigger picture? What if we looked to our ancestors, not just for wisdom, but for a practical philosophy that could help us navigate through these turbulent times? This is exactly what the Stoics did thousands of years ago. They realized that no matter what we say or do, there will always be chaos in the world. So what do we do when it seems like the whole world is collapsing around us? In this episode, I want to share 3 lessons from the ancient world that can help you make sense of 2025 in your life. Part 1. Set the scene. In the 1st century AD, the Roman Empire was facing a series of crises that threatened to destroy it from within and without. On the outside, there were threats from migrating tribes who wanted to invade Rome and destroy its way of life. On the inside, there was political corruption and civil wars that divided the empire into 3 separate pieces. It was a time of great uncertainty and fear for the Romans. And in the middle of all this chaos, 4 men stood out. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who wrote Meditations; Seneca, the philosopher who wrote letters from a Stoic, the former slave who became a philosopher and teacher; and Marcus Rufus, the philosopher who taught some of the most influential people in Rome, including the future emperor Marcus Aurelius. Together they form the backbone of Stoicism and its teachings. Now, let me ask you something. What makes these men so special? Is it the fact that they lived during one of the most tumultuous periods in human history? Or is it their ability to remain calm and composed even in the face of adversity? Well, the answer is both. These men were not just philosophers. They were also practitioners of Stoicism, a philosophy founded by Zeno of Citium in the early 3rd century BC. Stoicism taught them to accept whatever comes with tranquility, to focus on what they can control, and to live according to nature and reason. It's a philosophy that has stood the test of time and continues to inspire people today. Part 2. So let's take a closer look at the lives of these 4 men and see what they can teach us about how to deal with the challenges of 2025 in your life. Let's start with Marcus Aurelius. He was born into the Nerva Antonine dynasty, a series of emperors who adopted each other to ensure a peaceful succession. He was chosen by his adoptive father, Antoninus, to be his heir and spent his early life traveling around the empire, learning about its problems and meeting its people. He also studied philosophy under the best teachers in Rome, such as Marcus Rufus. When he became emperor at the age of 39, he continued to learn and write down his thoughts in a personal diary called Meditations. Marcus Aurelius ruled over a vast empire that stretched from Britain to Egypt. He faced many challenges such as wars with Germanic tribes, plagues, floods, and economic crises. But he also saw many wonders such as the construction of new roads and public buildings, as well as the flourishing of art, literature, and science. He was considered one of the 5 good emperors who brought stability and prosperity to Rome. But he was also a Stoic philosopher who tried to apply the teachings of his mentors to his actions and his reflection. One lesson we can learn from Marcus Aurelius is to focus on what we can control. He wrote in his diary, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that we should not waste our energy worrying about things that are beyond our control, such as the economy, the weather, or other people's opinions. Instead, we should concentrate on what we can influence, such as our attitude, our effort, and our impact. For example, we cannot control the price of Bitcoin, but we can control how much of our savings we are willing to risk on it. We cannot control the outcome of an election, but we can control how we vote or how we campaign for our favorite candidate. We cannot control the arrival of a package, but we can control how we manage our expectations and our emotions about it. By focusing on what we can control, we can reduce our stress and anxiety and increase our happiness and well-being. The second lesson we can learn from Marcus Aurelius is to accept what happens with tranquility. He wrote in his diary, Everything that happens is for the benefit of him who has a tranquil soul. It never ceases to amaze me how the soul can be both free and unmoved. This means that we should not resist or resent what happens to us, because everything happens for a reason and everything happens to teach us something. For example, we may not like the traffic jam we got stuck in, but maybe it gave us a chance to listen to a new song or to call our loved ones. We may not like the rain that ruined our picnic, but maybe it gave us a chance to appreciate the beauty of nature or to make a new friend. We may not like the challenge we failed at, but maybe it gave us a chance to learn a new skill or to discover a new passion. By accepting what happens with tranquility, we can turn every situation into an opportunity for growth and wisdom. The third lesson we can learn from Marcus Aurelius is to live according to nature and reason. He wrote in his diary, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This means that we should not try to go against the natural order of things, but rather follow it. We should use our reason to understand the laws of nature and to harmonize with them. For example, we cannot force the seasons to be longer or shorter. We cannot force the day to be brighter or darker. We cannot force people to like us or hate us, but we can force ourselves to respect the natural order of things and to respond accordingly. For example, we can force ourselves to plant a tree in the spring and to harvest it in the fall. We can force ourselves to study in the morning and to rest in the evening. We can force ourselves to help others and to expect nothing in return. By living according to nature and reason, we can find peace and purpose in our life. If you're enjoying this episode, please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps me bring more episodes like this one to more people. Thank you for your support. Let's now shift our attention to Seneca and Epictetus. Their lives were very different from Marcus Aurelius. Seneca was born into a wealthy family that had fallen from power, and he used his wealth and influence to help the poor and the sick. He was a playwright who wrote tragedies and comedies, and he was a senator who advised emperors on matters of policy. He was also a mentor to the young Marcus Aurelius. Seneca faced many obstacles in his life, such as exile, persecution, and blindness. But he never lost his sense of humor or his love for humanity. He died at the age of 65 by order of Nero, the emperor he had served and advised. Epicurus was born as a slave in Greece, and he worked for various masters until he earned his freedom. He was a philosopher who founded his own school, and he taught the Stoics that happiness is the chief good and that virtue is the sole good. He was a writer who wrote letters and essays, and he was a friend to everyone who valued wisdom and courage. He died at the age of 70, leaving behind a legacy of teachings and writings that have inspired millions of people throughout history. One lesson we can learn from Seneca and Epicurus is to seek wisdom and happiness. They both believed that the ultimate goal of life is to achieve eudaimonia, which is often translated as happiness or well-being. But it's not just any kind of happiness or well-being. It's a deep sense of contentment and fulfillment that comes from living a virtuous and rational life. To achieve this state of eudaimonia, we need to cultivate wisdom, which is the ability to understand ourselves and the world around us, and to practice virtue, which is the quality of being morally good and doing the right thing. For example, we can seek wisdom by reading books, talking to wise people, or reflecting on our experiences. We can practice virtue by being honest, by being helpful, by being courageous, and by being just. By seeking wisdom and happiness, we can find meaning and purpose in our life. Part 3. How to apply. We can learn from the Stoics how to live a life of wisdom and happiness in the face of chaos and adversity. How can we apply these lessons to the concrete situations we face every day? Here are some ideas to get you started. At work, we can apply the Stoic principles by focusing on what we can control, accepting what happens with tranquility, and living according to nature and reason. This means that we should not worry about things that are beyond our control, such as the decisions of our boss or the actions of our colleagues. Instead, we should concentrate on what we can influence, such as our productivity, our creativity, and our service to our client. It also means that we should not resist or resent what happens to us at work, such as changes in our schedule or feedback from our supervisor. Instead, we should try to see every situation as an opportunity to learn and grow. Finally, we should try to align our work with the natural order of things and the needs of our community, and not just chase after money or fame or status. In our family, we can apply the Stoic principles by focusing on what we can control, accepting what happens with tranquility, and living according to nature and reason. This means that we should not judge or criticize our family members for their choices or their mistakes, but rather try to understand and support them. It also means that we should not expect perfection from ourselves or from others, but rather try to appreciate every moment and every interaction as a gift. Finally, we should try to create harmony and balance in our family by treating everyone fairly and respectfully, and by celebrating every success and every challenge. Together, in our personal life, we can apply the Stoic principles by focusing on what we can control, accepting what happens with tranquility, and living according to nature and reason. This means that we should not dwell on the past or worry about the future, but rather try to enjoy the present moment. It also means that we should not complain or whine about our problems, but rather try to solve them with courage and optimism. Finally, we should try to find joy and beauty in every situation and every person, and not just chase after pleasure or comfort or distraction. Now it's your turn. Which Stoic principle will you apply today, and what will you do differently as a result? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to dig deeper into Stoic philosophy, check out my podcast where we discuss these ideas in more detail. As the wise Marcus Aurelius once said, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. So choose your thoughts wisely and make 2025 your best year yet. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.